This is Accelerated Geometry, Section 2.5, Angle Relationships. So I have a picture of two skis that are crossing, and I have a picture of two shadows that are crossing. And that's going to come into play later when we're talking about angles. This is just for our class. I have given students a conjecture list or a link to the conjecture list, and you are required for this class to keep a conjecture list. Now, this is a very important list because it will contain all the important facts about geometry. Now, in our textbook, they don't usually finish off the conjectures. So the conjecture list will have the start of the conjectures, and then you will actually finish them off on your paper. I have had students who keep this and use it to study for the ACT. So it's an important list that you're going to be keeping up throughout the year. Each conjecture must be checked by me for accuracy. Each conjecture needs a sketch as an example of the conjecture. Your conjecture list will be handed in each chapter, and it will be graded for completeness and accuracy. And when we need to state a conjecture as a reason in a problem, we will write out the full conjecture most of the time. We do not use its number, ever, and we very seldom are just using its name. There's a couple of exceptions to that. So you're going to have to really study these conjectures. And when parents say to me, how can my kid do better in your class? I always say, study the conjecture list more. Become very familiar with the conjecture list, because these are all of the important things that you need to know about geometry. Okay, today we're going to talk about two kinds of angles. We've talked about them before, but now we're going to deal with their properties. The first pair of angles is called a linear pair of angles. And if you remember what those look like, two angles that share a common vertex. So here's an angle PRS that has a vertex of R, and angle SRQ has a vertex of R, so they both have a vertex of R. And their side is shared, so they share this side, which is the ray RS. So this angle here and this angle in here are a linear pair of angles. The other angles that we're going to talk about today are vertical angles, two angles across from each other when two lines intersect. So here are two intersecting lines. 1 and 3 are opposite from each other. They are called vertical angles. 4 and 2 over here are across from each other, opposite from each other when the two lines intersect, and so therefore they are vertical angles. The other thing that we're going to deal with today is the converse of a statement. It switches the if and then statements. So for example, if it rains, here's the if, here's the then I will use my umbrella. So that makes sense. If it rains, then I will use my umbrella. To find the converse of the statement, you switch the if and the then. So this word if stays and this word then stays, but those two switch. So it becomes, if I use my umbrella, then it will rain. Now, this actual statement here is probably true. If it rains, then I will use my umbrella. But if I use my umbrella, then it will rain. If I go outside and it's not a rainy day and I put up my umbrella, will it rain? No. So sometimes the converse of a statement is true, but sometimes the converse of a statement is false. So as a group, we're going to do page 132, investigation. Linear pair conjecture is going to come out of that. Conjecture number 1, our first official numbered conjecture for the year. On page 133, there's an investigation. And when you're done with that, it should lead you to create the vertical angle conjecture, which is conjecture 2. After you get these two conjectures, then you're going to show them to me if you're in class. If you're not in class, you're going to look at the end of this slideshow, and you're going to see what the conjectures should have been after you have finished the activity. Then the other thing I want you to do is write the converse of conjecture 1 and tell me if the converse of that linear pair conjecture is true or false. And then I want you to write the converse of conjecture number 2, and then tell me, is the converse of the vertical angles conjecture true or false? So if we're in class, you would be showing me this stuff. If you're not in class, you're just kind of reading through this and listening to me. I'm going to show you one more slide that says something about the homework, and then after that, I'm going to show you what you should have gotten as those 2 conjectures, conjecture 1 and 2, linear pair conjecture and vertical angles conjecture. But right now you could probably pause the video and actually do those investigations and then come back to check them. So here's the slide that says homework is listed on the calendar for today, and then here are the conjectures you should have gotten from the investigations. This says, if 2 angles form a linear pair, so I can see here there's a linear pair, one of the angles is 80 and one of them is 100, then they are supplementary. They add up to be 180 degrees. Now, I also asked you to do the converse. The converse would say, if 2 angles are supplementary, then they form a linear pair. So now what if I did this? Here's an angle that's 80 degrees, and here's an angle that is 100 degrees. Those 2 angles are supplementary. They add up to be 180 degrees, but they are not a linear pair because they are not sharing a vertex. The vertexes are apart from each other, and they are not sharing that side. So therefore, the converse is false. The statement itself is true, but the converse is false. Here's the second conjecture you should have come up with in the investigation. If 2 angles are vertical angles, then they are congruent. So 2 lines intersect. This pink and this pinkish, reddish pinkish angles are both 46. So that shows me that vertical angles are equal to each other. If I look at the blue ones here, 134 and 134, they are vertical angles and they are equal also. So that is true. You should have gotten that from the activity that they made you go through and using inductive reasoning. Now, I also asked you to do the converse. The converse would say, if 2 angles are congruent, then they are vertical angles. Okay, here are 2 angles that are congruent. This one and this one. They are not vertical angles because there are no 2 lines that are intersecting to form them. They are just formed separately. So again, the converse of this true statement is false. So it's kind of exciting that finally we are starting on our quest to learn about geometry using inductive reasoning skills and adding conjectures to our conjecture list. That's going to become very helpful to you as you go on to try to get into a really good college.